For 4 decades, Phil Lesh has been playing music with partners Bob Weir and Bill Kreutzmann. For 30 of those years, they were joined by guitarist Jerry Garcia in the Grateful Dead. It was one of the most innovative acts in American music, evolving from Bay Area acid rock to bluegrass and almost everything in between. As its bassist, Lesh may have been the band's most musically adventurous member. I saw Phil Lesh play with the Grateful Dead more than 50 times, and when he came to Washington this week to talk about his new memoir, Searching for the Sound, I interviewed him unapologetically as a fan. Just for our viewers who aren't as familiar with the Grateful Dead, one of the things that comes out in your really nicely written, excellent book is just how much you all toured.
Yes.
Give me sort of an overview sense for the last 40 years.
Well, we started out playing for dancers in the ballrooms of San Francisco in the late 60s. And that's really what we've always thought of ourselves as essentially a dance band, a lot like the swing bands of the 30s and 40s. And we always just wanted to play for more people, because the way that we thought of our music was as a kind of a communion ritual, so that we commune with each other and form what we thought of as a group mind, and that brings the music out, and then we can transmit that to the audience, and they send us energy back. And so that was the main reason we played music, was to get that communion going and that sense of community.
How would you describe Grateful Dead music? I mean, it seems to go all the way from acid rock to almost country. What is it?
Well, it's something that has it's a kind of music that has a wide range of influences in it, and so from the beginning we wanted to try and blend and fuse really all of those influences, and so we consciously tried to look at the music as being texturally greater than the sum of the parts.
Now, your early music was influenced by LSD. You have this kind of amazing description in the book of being at a show when someone puts a bunch of acid in your orange juice and you get out on stage and you're not sure what this device in your hands is. It's a bass, it turns out, which you play.
Yes.
Did LSD make the music better or worse?
It didn't do that much for the music in the sense that it didn't make anybody play better or worse. What it did was fuse our minds together in a kind of telepathic manner that allowed us to see. The best part about making our kind of music is when the music is pretty much playing us and there's no one there at all moving the fingers. That is to say, we all subsume our identity, in a sense, in a greater whole, and we call that the gestalt, or the group mind. And that's the tool that we use to open the valve to that pipeline which funnels that greater music down through us. Stravinsky once said, "I am the vessel through which this music passes." And in the ideal situation with the Grateful Dead music, that's also the case.
One of the things I always loved about the Grateful Dead was almost sort of, at least from the outside, it appeared to be a libertarian spirit, a reluctance to tell other people what to do, and it struck me as a kind of non-political band, at least from the outside. Other bands are always lecturing you from the stage. No one from the Grateful Dead, at the shows I went to anyway, was ever lecturing anybody on who to vote for. You've got this amazing line, tucked in the book. I want to read it to you, talking about a show you played in 1966 in the Panhandle of San Francisco. You said there was a Buddhist chant led by Allen Ginsberg. After that, poets read, bands played, people danced. We even had some leftist politicos from Berkeley ranting, the only bring down of the day.
I'm referring to the human being there.
Yeah. So why is, when all these bands became political, all the bands sort of in your world, why did you all choose not to?
Because we felt that what we were doing was more, I hate to use that word because it's almost a cliche, religious. What we were doing was religious in the original sense of the word, which means to bind together. We were trying to create a community of spirit with the music. And the political harangue and again, it was just like being like a cop trying to tell people what to do, or legislate morality, or legislate private behavior. It was just anathema to us.
But you have all these fans, these wide-eyed fans who love you. I mean, isn't it tempting to want to send some sort of message to people since you have the power?
Music is the message. The metaphor of the band cooperating and collaborating and becoming one being, one organism, that's the message.
Well, if it's a religious movement, you have all these religious followers. What did you think of them? What did you think of the Deadheads?
God bless their little pea-picking hearts, as my mother used to say. No, I mean, I'm going around now, and I'm doing book signings, and in the past I've done blood drives, and it is just the most wonderful experience to meet these Deadheads face to face, and right, just like you and I right here, and shake a hand and get a smile, and all everybody wants to do is say thank you for changing my life.
So you never thought that there were people who were taking it too seriously, devoting their lives to going on tour, for instance?
Well, there people were doing that, but I saw that, and I think we all did, as the last great American adventure. I mean, you can't hitchhike, you can't run away with the circus, you can't ride the rails anymore. Going on tour with the band, any band really, is kind of an adventure. You put yourself in a situation where you're not sure what's going to happen next. You know, there's a little uncertainty, maybe even a little danger, but generally it's a pretty safe environment, and you can extend yourself, you can explore other realities, and still come back and tell the tale the next day.
I was amazed to read that for all the touring you guys did, 30 years, almost full time, a lot of the time it seems like,
yes,
you weren't making a huge amount of money. Why?
Well, we started out, well, it's strange because up to a certain point before we had our big record in 1987, we weren't really making that much money. We were supporting ourselves, and we put everything into the general kitty, and the band and everyone else drew salaries, and pretty much, cost of living salaries. They'd go up from time to time, and but the idea was to put everything back into equipment, and to enhance rather the experience and the technology of presenting the music.
Why couldn't you ever capture your sound in the studio?
I don't think any of us ever believed it could be done, because there was just so much range to it. Not necessarily only dynamic range, but there's just so much emotional range to it, and we found ourselves in the studio always trying to tone it down, which really isn't what we do. We're not about turning it down. We're about opening it up.
I was always impressed and amazed that you let people tape your shows with high-tech recording equipment. Here, you're best known for your live touring. Your albums don't sell as well as your concerts are attended. I mean, right? And you're giving away the product. How does that work, and why do you think that was a good business decision?
Well, it was only a good business decision because we didn't think of it as a business decision. It was that libertarian spirit, I think, that prompted it. When it just started happening rather spontaneously. We started noticing microphone stands in the audience. Okay, they're taping the shows. And it was first cassettes, and then digital audio tape, and now mini disc, and now it's hard drive, I guess. And but management came to us and said, "Well, we can't let them do that." And Jerry just stood right up and said, "Listen, after we've played it, we're done with it. They can have it. Let them do whatever they want with it." We did ask them not to sell it. Just trade it, give it away. And that's what happened. People would give their tapes or copy their tapes and give the copy away to a friend or to a sibling or to a parent even. And it was the smartest thing we ever did. It disseminated the music.
Yeah, but I never bought your albums when I was little. I just got the tapes from people for free.
We didn't care. We didn't care if you bought our albums or not. We only made the albums because it was maybe what we were supposed to do. You make records, and it brought in a little money, and it was interesting to play in the studio and see what could be done with it. But that wasn't why we were playing music, to make records.
You have this description in the book of Jerry Garcia in his later years, staying home and building model trains and teaching his cat to fetch.
I saw it with my own eyes.
Were you surprised when he died? When Jerry Garcia died?
I wasn't surprised. I was shocked and saddened and in fact devastated, but I wasn't surprised. We'd all been waiting for this for a long time. He'd been really sick in '86. He'd been really sick again in '92, and he couldn't seem to shake the habit. But to his eternal credit, he was really trying to turn it around when he died. He'd gone to Betty Ford. That hadn't worked out for him. But right after that, he came back and he checked himself in to another facility, which for rehab. And he clearly hoped that was going to help. So, but it was really hard to make the decision to tour at all for me, because after Jerry's death, I didn't really want to do it. I didn't think I wanted to play music with anybody but him. He was the reason I joined the band in the first place.
Bill Lesh, this is one of the best books I've read in a long time, Searching for the Sound. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Tucker.
Thanks.
Good to be here.